Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and today I want to talk about why I think Destiny 2 needs to end as we know it right now, whether that means a Destiny 3, a Destiny 2 Reborn, or some other solution. The game feels stale, there's too much competition, and there's too many problems with the game right now to keep going as we currently are. I know we are getting an update, so the seasonal model is going away and being replaced by episodes, but I don't think that's enough. Personally, I do think there need to be more changes with the game in order to bring it forward so people continue playing years down the road. And I think that's likely going to mean that we don't get any new content for a while in order for them to be more innovative. The developers time to really push forward the game and bring forward ideas that are going to really allow players to be excited about jumping into Destiny 2 once again. If you missed it this past week, we did have, unfortunately, a bunch of layoffs at Bungie, which has people speculating about a lot of things, whether it is lack of major expansions going forward or other changes to the way the game works. We don't know how that's going to shake up right now. We also have the final shape likely being delayed from February into either June or possibly September of next year. And yeah, right now it's just so much going on with the game. I want to talk about these changes and why I think a short-term vision for the game has hindered the long-term success. So, first off, we know there's a lot of competition in 2023 with video games. There have been banger after banger after banger this year, and it's really gotten people off of games that have probably been stale for quite some time, right? Destiny 2 is a game that has followed a familiar formula for far too long, and the developers haven't been allowed to really expand and innovate in a way that would get people excited to jump back in. Everyone just comes back to Destiny 2 to play the game because they're familiar with it, they enjoy the seasonal story, they want to see where it goes, but there's not the same level of excitement that you would see from other MMOs like we're seeing with World of Warcraft, which at BlizzCon this year got a bunch of new content that people are thrilled to check out and really excited to jump back into. And that's the struggle, I think, with Destiny 2 right now. You have the developers who are just continuously pumping out content for the seasonal model, for the next expansion, but none of it feels like it's pushing the game or the genre forward. There's nothing there that is getting me to think, wow, this is why I loved Bungie in the first place. They did things we'd never seen before. We never had an FPS raid before Bungie did them in Destiny 1. We didn't have the FPS dungeons that were so great when they first dropped in Destiny 2. We didn't have a game blend PvE and PvP in the same way in an FPS shooter like we saw with Destiny 1. And that type of innovation is something that has been lost over the years with Destiny 2, and that's really the big struggle. I firmly believe that going to the seasonal model was smart at first, but after a couple years, it was clear that the process was getting stale and it was time to change, but Bungie waited until far too long to make these changes. And so now, even though these recent seasons have felt pretty good, the whole formula is so stale that it does not matter because people aren't going to be excited to play that content. Same thing with having 2 raids and 2 dungeons every single year. I feel like they watered down the feeling of raids and dungeons in the game. They don't feel special anymore, and instead of adding some new type of content, whether it's a horde mode, whether it's a different type of PvE, VP activity, whether it is innovating in the world itself, because Bungie has really struggled with making its locations relevant after the initial push of a new expansion. So you see something like, for example, Nessus, EDZ, these places are rarely visited on a consistent basis, and there's all these locations to explore that you could really check out and dive into if we had things like random world bosses that were exciting, if we had PvEVP zones across the world, or any other type of new content that we haven't seen in the game before that could really push it forward and encourage people to go back to these locations that we haven't been to consistently in some time. I think all of that is a problem, and just the lack of innovation. I'll come back to that statement quite some time because I think that's really the biggest issue with Destiny 2 right now. It doesn't feel like it does anything special that we haven't seen over the last course of several years. And I think the final shape is probably going to be really good, and I'm going to enjoy it. I think a lot of people are going to come back and see the end of this 10-year saga. But after that, I have real concerns about how the episodes are going to perform. And I think ultimately we need to see a gap in content for several reasons. One, we need a reset of abilities, of weapons and armor and everything to some degree. There's a reason that every other MMO or MMO Lite has a power cap, has a sunsetting type of situation in order for players to jump in and really want to chase the new gear because it's going to have a higher power score, a higher level, or just be significantly better than the previous gear that they had. That doesn't happen in Destiny 2 right now, and the lack of a power grind I think is good in some parts, but also it means people aren't logging in and doing their daily crucible, their weekly strikes, and all that kind of good stuff. And that formula needs to change as well. I think they've been scarred a little bit over at Bungie by the lack of success with Gambit. Gambit was the thing that was supposed to turn everything around and be their innovative new formula, but since that didn't take off in the way that they expected, there hasn't been anything new that they've done since then to really push the game forward, and that's a problem. And we see it. We see that the seasonal model has been necessary from them because of the way the coding works. So whether they can find a way to correct that over the course of a year or two and just have like repeated content or something like that, I think we need to see a gap large enough to allow Bungie to really get back to what they do best, allow the developers to really be successful. They still have 600 developers working on the game, so it's not like they're going with a skeleton crew. But if maybe when Marathon launches, this is what I would personally like to see. Marathon drops, that is the focus for people at Bungie as far as dropping new content. That is going to be the revenue generator. You still have Destiny 2 alive and kicking and people playing it and having seasonal events and everything like that, but you don't put out any new paid content for a year, 2 years, whatever the case needs to be in order for them to really come back with a bang. Because I think Destiny 2 players will come back if they deliver the type of innovative content, the type of unique activities and fun gameplay that they have been known for over the course of years, and they've gotten away from that, and that's why I think these changes need to happen. Whether that is the case and is something that will happen remains to be seen, whether it's something that the higher-ups at Bungie will allow, because that seems to be the biggest issue. I know a lot of developers have been advocating for changes over the course of time, but Destiny 2 could once again be a dominant force in the looter shooter space if it's given time to blossom and grow once again, instead of just constantly hammering it with new content that is not going to be well liked overall, especially after years and years go by. I think quality over quantity needs to be the focus right now, and it hasn't been in far too long in Destiny 2, and that is the major issue that I see. I wonder if everyone agrees or disagrees with me. Let me know how you see it in the comments down below. Would you be upset if there was a gap in content for Destiny 2 for a while they were able to course correct and fix some things and innovate in the way that we've seen them do in the past? Anyway, my name is Jopa. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out tremendously. So if you want to see more Destiny 2 content going forward, I don't know how much I'm going to have on the channel considering all the ups and downs that we're going to see, and probably lack of content at certain times going forward with all the delays. But I'd love to hear from you guys. My name is Jopa. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.